Good morning, everybody. This week we're going to be talking about the new book, The Land and Its People by David Sedaris. Um, this is not going to be a book that is at all able to be put into my normal format because it's a collection of essays by David Sedaris. It has nothing, there's no plot and there's no underlying subtext to it. It's just simply, it is what it is. But we can talk a little bit about it. In case anybody doesn't know, David Sedaris is a writer. He's written quite a few books now. He's absolutely hilarious. He's one of the few authors that when I see he has a new book out, I just buy it sight unseen because he has a history of just doing really, really funny and sometimes poignant, essays. These essays are about quite a few different things. He consistently discusses his husband Hugh, and their relationship. He discusses his sister Amy. You might have known Amy Sedaris from the. I know Amy Sedaris from the series Strangers with Candy that was on Comedy Central back in the '90s, I think. But she's a relatively well known actress. He also has he also has other brothers and sisters, and he talks about them. But let's dig a little bit into like this book as opposed to his other ones. This book has a much heavier emphasis than normal on his personal life. I noticed his like I said, his marriage to his husband Hugh, um, his um, his relationships with his sisters. One hilarious line from the very first essay, when Hugh was going in for a hip replacement because they're not young anymore. Um, Hugh, he meant David Sedaris mentions that Hugh does all the cooking and all the cleaning, and Hugh had mentioned, well, I talked to my brother. My brother even suggested that he could come over and take care of me while I recuperate. But I said you do it. And David's like words were, no, call him back now, get him there. And within an hour, David had set up a car to take him to the LaGuardia airport, and then from the Seattle airport to their place, because it was as David put it, I'm not going to do that stuff. I actually really kind of love how David Sedaris presents himself as the world's most self-centered human being in history. There are other essays in this book, like the time that David Sedaris and many other like comedians met the Pope, and about the worries about what should we say to the Pope and that kind of stuff. Other ones was a really poignant essay about the death of a childhood friend and about how they had drifted apart over the years. That was really good. The title essay, "The Land and Its People," was interesting in that it actually kind of discusses how sometimes we go to other countries and we don't really all going to the other country is another tick on our board of countries we visited. We don't really get out and like experience the actual countries. It's just the airport. I'm guilty of that. I flew through Heathrow, so I was like, oh, I've been to the UK. No, I really haven't. I mean, I haven't actually visited the UK. I've visited Heathrow. But I mean, it's like it's that kind of stuff. I mean, it's we really have to like sometimes stop and consider what we're actually doing when we go to other countries, because David compares himself to other people that he was with that actually go out. They go out and they they find things to do in the country. They meet people. They get to know people, and all David Sedaris wants to do is sit in a spa that's gated off from everybody else around him. It's something to think about. It's presented in a really funny way. But it is something to kind of think about. It's like, even when we go, even if we're not going to other countries, if we're just going over a state line, there's differences between the states and the U.S. Experience those differences. Don't be afraid of them. You know, but it's it overall. This I If I wanted to say what is this book about, this book seems to be there seems to be a certain level of acceptance of his aging in David Sedaris's life, and I'm not sure I'm not sure if he meant that. I'm not sure if that was a conscious decision to get across in this set of essays. I'm sure there was some reason why he included, these essays in this book as opposed to some other book. But what I took away from this was that Sedaris is arguing to slow down, to experience your family, your loved ones, while they're still here and while you're still here, as opposed to just rushing through life to say, I want to go here, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's and that's something we should all kind of consider. It's probably going to be another really short book review this week, just because there's not much more I can dig into in this book, just simply because it is a collection of essays as opposed to a larger plot or anything like that. And let's face it, these are essays about his life, so there's no character progression, there's no character arcs. It's just simply observations about him, his loved ones, and the world around him. But is it worth reading? Oh my goodness, yes. I won't say it's the best book I've read this year, because I've been saying that too much lately, but it's certainly very, very, very good, and I suggest everybody reads it. You can get through it in just a couple days. It's only like 220 pages, and trust me, it doesn't even feel like 220 pages. It feels like it's like 3 pages long. It goes by that quickly. It's hilarious. It's funny, and it's worth taking a look at. Anyway, that's my review of David Sedaris's The Land and Its People. It's a definite thumbs up. So go out and read it, and I don't know. Let me know if you don't like it in the comments. Bye bye.